With the release of the new orientation book, some of Playtime's biggest mysteries have been solved. The Smiling Critters have their own dedicated section in the book, with one of the biggest revelations in the series. If you thought Dog Day had it rough, then you're going to be in for a big surprise. The first Smiling Critter discussed in the book is Catnap. We are presented with the original newspaper article that covered the Catnap toy recall. The article was appropriately labeled Catnap Killer. Parents report toy that causes kids to have intense nightmares. A series of incidents where children have suffered unusual sleeping patterns have been linked to a new toy made by Playtime Co., famous for its Huggy Wuggy character. In recent weeks, doctors across the country have noted a rise in parents reporting their children are suffering from intense nightmares. There seemed to be no obvious cause for this until one family reported the problems had completely stopped after the child lost their new favorite toy on a day trip to the woods. The toy in question was Catnap, a central character in Playtime's heavily promoted Smiling Critters line. Further research quickly showed a strong link between these sleep disturbances and ownership of Catnap toys, leading to speculation that they are caused by the scent the toy emits. As yet, the link is unproven. Many concerned parents aren't waiting for an explanation and are throwing their Catnap in the trash and urging others not to buy the toy. We all know the real culprit behind the children's nightmares has to deal with the gas. Instead of Catnap releasing a lavender scent for the children, he was releasing a highly potent hallucinogenic. The children were most likely seeing his monster version every time they went to bed. We know this to be the case since this is what happened with Marie Payne in the VHS tape. Marie Payne was able to see the colorless version of Catnap and couldn't stop trembling. PW makes a comment on the bottom saying, "This is the kind of thing that led Catnap to be taken off the market." A part of the orientation book also revealed that before the Catnap recall, the cartoon was already not liked because of Catnap. Playtime wanted Catnap to be this calming figure for the Smiling Critters, but his lack of speaking just made children afraid of him. The show suffered because of the problems with the toy line, but the show itself was not liked either. Catnap was meant to be the calm, reassuring heart of the gang, but audiences didn't like how he never spoke, and how distant he was from the others, and how he put the rest of them to sleep at night. Playtime Co. responded by pointing out that the others wanted him to put them to sleep, and that seemed to freak kids out even more. But according to the orientation book, it wasn't just the children that weren't fans of the show. The Smiling Critters created a lot of discourse among the Playtime employees. Not everyone was on board on how the Smiling Critters were being handled. Yeah, right. If the show had been a hit, you can bet it would still be running today. The most popular characters would have their own spin-off series, and there'd be direct-to-video movies that turned out to be only 58 minutes long. The Smiling Critters were considered a failure by Playtime standards. While the Bigger Bodies initiative would turn out to be a success, the same couldn't be said for the cartoon. There was only 58 minutes worth of the show ever created, and it unfortunately didn't take off. It'll never be repeated. Playtime put it in the vault. But there's a thing called an internet bulletin board, where people who recorded it can get in touch with one another and swap VHS copies. College students love it apparently. While on the topic of Catnap, the orientation book also revealed that Catnap wasn't the first bigger body Smiling Critter. Bobby Bearhug has been revealed to be experiment 1186. Considering Catnap's number is 1188, that means Bobby was created before him. 3 hours following awaking observations, her body continues to spasm, eyelids flutter, paws twitch. Subject doesn't seem to show any awareness of where she is. Could sensory functions be distorted or altogether absent? We speak to her, try to get her attention by making sounds, but she does not register our attempts. The auditory nerve in the ears directly communicates sound to the auditory cortex in the brain. It appears we may have failed at wiring the connective cords and might be forced to go back under the knife to fix this. A lack of response seems to indicate the necessity of this task. It's clear that our procedures still haven't corrected issues with vocals either. Her mouth moves as if to speak, but nothing is said. We'll need to correct these processes with subsequent subjects if we're to potentially have these toys interact with our children. The progress report shows how scientists carefully observed the behavior of Bobby while taking down notes on the potential problems. This means that they were still in the early period of developing procedures on how to create a perfect bigger body. And as awful as it can get, Bobby Bearhug was one of the first test subjects used in order to achieve this aimed perfection. In her case, Bobby's experiment helped out to completely achieve the sensory functions of the bigger bodies. In exchange for Bobby's suffering, the scientists had discovered the exact procedure in order to create her successors. Catnap as an example. Several hours after awakening, she tried to stand and walk to the other side of the cell, but couldn't keep her balance. She looks to be searching for help, continuing to spasm. She's trying to scream, but she has no voice. She's silent. I'm not sure if she knows she's not making any sound. Conclusions. Work will need to be done to perfect the bigger body formula we began with Boxy. Each iteration improves on the former. However, if we're to meet the goals of Dr. Sawyer and produce bigger body subjects that we can integrate into a factory setting, then more work will need to be done. As it stands, Bobby will require further experimentation. If we are to create Subject 1188 according to schematics, then each of these smiling critters will prove a good testing ground for ironing out these issues. We see the sketch of poor Bobby on the bottom of the report. Judging by her body shape and limbs, she most likely would have been similar to Dog Day. Going off of Bobby and Dog Day's builds, we can assume they both walk on 2 legs. This is noticeably different from Catnap since he uses all 4 of his legs to walk. It seems like this was done intentionally to further alienate Catnap from the rest of the smiling critters. The cartoon show already made him an outcast, so it only makes sense that he would naturally look off compared to the others. Mob Entertainment clearly wanted fans to see this, and it's most likely to prepare us for Chapter 4. Either Bobby will be her very own boss fight, or she will join our team alongside Poppy and Kissy Missy. Another interesting revelation is a separate page in the book regarding the alleged sighting of PJ Pugapillar. This seems like a normal observation at first, but there could be more to the story. It was somewhere in this area we had one of those unfortunate accidents, where a staff member without clearance saw something they shouldn't. An employee named Marcus Brickley encountered a creature he described as 50 feet long with 1,000 legs. This isn't a totally accurate description of PJ Pugapillar, but we think that's probably what he saw. Leith ordered him to forget about it. If he told anyone about it, it didn't seem to have any consequences. I mean, who'd believe that? Now, the report doesn't really verify that it was PJ Pugapillar that Marcus Brickley saw. Hence, there is a possibility that what he saw was actually a separate toy. According to the note, Leith ordered Brickley to forget about what he saw, and if he told anyone, it didn't seem to have any consequences. But knowing how Playtime works, that's pretty hard to believe. I wouldn't be surprised if Marcus was killed, or perhaps turned into one of those bigger bodies himself. Let me know in the comments what you think about Bobby Bearhug. Will we see her in Chapter 4, and if so, will she be on our side? Check out some of these other videos on the screen, and I'll see you next time.